Makes you wanna go. Makes you wanna go. Na 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 na. Makes you wanna go.
Hey, 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 Nikki G, how are you? How are you?
I am vibing.
I was about to ask you if you caught the vibe.
I felt like getting out of my seat and forgive me. It's just a thing.
It's a thing. It's a vibe. It's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for stopping in today. So I
Sure.
appreciate it. And I want to welcome everybody to Gab with Goldnbronze. Thank you also for stopping in to see what we are gabbing about today. We do appreciate it. I want to say first off that we are sponsors of Golden Swan Cadre, which is a domestic 501c3 nonprofit organization that advocates against domestic violence towards women. But we also advocate for some good things too, like women's health, women's mental health, self-care, and mindfulness. So we do a lot of initiatives regarding that as well. Basically, you can go to www.goldenswancadre.com to find out what we're all about, our Facebook page and Instagram page. And we do work with domestic violence, let's call them survivors, once they have been discharged from the domestic violence centers that we collaborate with. We work with them for 12 consecutive months. We adopt a family. And when we do that, we adopt a room. So we'll help them furnish a room, decor it, and peer-to-peer with them, mentor them for 12 consecutive months. So we have a rotation. Normally we take about 4 a year. I think we've already made it to 6 and just asked to take 2 more recently, and we'll see what we can do. But that's where we need your help. We are partially self-funded and our funds are limited. So we do need people to donate money to us. And later on in the show, we'll tell you how to do that. And the monies that we received help us to do some of these things that they are asking for us to do. We do also support the centers and recreational centers around in the communities that we serve, donating candy, Halloween candy, turkey stuff for dinner. On Thanksgiving, we do turkey baskets. We do Easter baskets. We volunteer in the communities that we serve. We do a lot with a little. So we are asking for your assistance with that. If you feel like doing that for us, please, we surely would appreciate it. All right, so much for that. And later on, we will tell you how you can donate to this worthy cause. But right now, we decided to talk about colorism. We realize we face a lot of prejudices in the world when you're brown skin or yellow skin, but there is something called colorism within one's own ethnicity, not just Black, but Asians discriminate against themselves, their own people, and Black people do as well. Colorism is the practice of discrimination or prejudice based on skin tone, where individuals with lighter skin are often treated more favorably than those with darker skin, even with the same racial or ethnic group. Unlike racism, which is based on broader racial categories, colorism operates within racial and ethnic groups and often stems from the belief that lighter skin is more desirable, more beautiful, or associated with higher social status. Now, this really used to be the case 60 years ago or so, but it still is. It was more obvious then when people passed for other than what they are, for the reasons that we just mentioned, but we, within our own cultures and ethnicities, tend to do this as well. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it exists. What do you think about that, Mickey? My opinion on that.
Oh my goodness. It's evolving, but I know that it's there because me being a woman who's a little lighter skinned, I don't discriminate or I don't look down upon anyone else. There are people who are lighter skinned than me. We didn't choose our skins, and that shouldn't matter in the world of opportunities, etc. It should not matter.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And you know what? I've had people say to me, call me light skinned, and I don't consider myself light skinned. But I've had people refer to me as that. And sometimes I'm just like, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I have aunties that are light, almost white,
Right,
that are from our Indian ancestry,
right.
Cherokee Indian ancestry, and
Mhm.
that's what I consider light skin. But
Mhm.
they tell me there's a brown paper bag rule, which I was like, "What is that?" Believe it or not, I didn't know what it was until
Yeah,
somebody told me recently.
I've heard of that. And really, we run the spectrum of complexions. In my sibling group, there's three of us. My sister's very fair skinned. I'm somewhere in the middle, and our brother is darker skinned, and we have the same parents. So genetically, you can land just about any place, in the spectrum. But I'll say for African Americans or people of African descent, we range very light to very dark.
Yes,
And if sometimes it just pops up genetically, you might reach back and have the color of your great grandmother or some aunt that you never knew, and you pop up with that color of skin. So it's not an exact science. Both of my parents and neither one of them are very fair skinned. And so
right.
here we are.
Well, historical roots have a lot to do with that. I have friends of Asian Indian descent that are darker than you, for that matter, that are, they have light skin, like we just, well, what you consider fair is what I consider light skin. But they have the spectrum from almost white to chocolate brown as well. But colorism has historical ties to colonialism, slavery, and systems of oppression where lighter skin was associated with privilege, while darker skin was linked to the hard labor and lower status. And those were like in the slave days, the ones that had to work the fields. Well, I will finish my thought in just a moment. They're telling me we need to take a break, so one moment. All right, thank you for returning. We are back, and I'll finish my thought. What I was saying was that um, lighter skin was associated with privilege, while darker skin was linked to labor and lower statuses. And back in the slavery times, they would have those lighter skinned people, as a rule, working as the house slaves, and the darker skinned people, as a rule, working in the fields. Occasionally, they would have maybe a brown skinned man be the butler or whatever in the house. But I can probably say from history, most of the time, it was the fairer skinned people that were able to work inside of the home. And in many countries, European colonizers reinforced the idea that fair skin was superior, leading to lasting social hierarchies based on skin color, and probably why there is colorism in existence still today, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very sad. It really is. I remember my mom, I think, telling me that back in the day there was a saying, "White is right and black get back." And it was something that was ingrained in the community,
Mhm.
that the closer you were to Caucasian or European features, European skin, the better you were. But that came from colonization from Europe, and
Yes.
so it was ingrained in us. And even in the slavery times, like you said, the lighter skin, which is probably someone who's blended with the master, who
Hmm.
is Caucasian and with an African descent person, their children were lighter skinned, so they may have had the privilege of being in the house, as opposed to who were darker, they were in the field. So
Hmm.
that's just amazing to me.
Right,
So
right,
there's a global phenomenon. So though colorism is commonly discussed in the context of African American or Latinx communities, it exists worldwide, including, like you said, countries like India,
mhm,
the Philippines, and Brazil, where light skin is often linked to social status, beauty, and success. I think
right.
that's everywhere, like they said. And you'd be surprised because we live in our bubble, but people live in their countries and they're experiencing it too.
Right. And I could see Brazil. I didn't know Philippines was inclusive in this, but that's interesting. That's something else for me to dig into
Right.
and just see what the difference is. But,
Yeah.
colorism can affect individuals' access to opportunities in employment, education, media representation, and even in relationships. They'll let the light skinned girl be, what do they call them, the anchor person,
Yeah.
quicker than maybe a darker skinned person. And there is this, I don't know if it's a phenomenon or not, where if you look more white, for lack of a better
Mhm.
word,
Yes. Yeah.
or you may get the job over someone that looks more African, maybe when we're talking about Black people
Right.
specifically, since that's what we're familiar with, that they may get the job over the other person. And I'm not sure about education. It seems like that would be equal opportunity nowadays, but I could see back in maybe our grandparents' days and our parents' days where that was a factor. And yes, even in relationships, some people prefer light skinned ladies over brown skinned ladies, or vice versa. Studies show that lighter skinned individuals often receive higher incomes, and that's unfortunate. Better job prospects, which we just talked about, getting a job over another, and more positive portrayals in media than darker skinned counterparts, which all of that is, as far as I'm concerned, unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, unnecessary, and downright hurtful,
Mhm.
a lot of ways. I remember also hearing that I talk to older people in my family, so I'm hearing these things from them. And sometimes when people marry someone lighter skinned, they call that marrying up. So their children would have a better chance. So they would marry someone lighter skinned to give their offspring a better chance. Because as you stated, opportunities for employment, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes people discriminate based on the complexion of your skin, and it's
Right.
unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Um, of course, it has a psychological impact. Like I was saying, colorism can negatively affect the self-esteem and mental health of those with darker skin tones, as they may internalize social standards of beauty or worth based on skin color. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Um, I do think that sometimes people that are browner than others might feel somewhat less adequate, maybe, but I think that that may come from within their own home, some sort of colorism. Because if you're darker or brown skin and you're taught to be confident and have self esteem, then no matter what anyone else outside may think of you, shouldn't matter. I think that when it matters is because the people that you listen to or take advice from cosigns this attitude,
Right.
and so therefore then you will also accept it. But if you're raised in a home where they teach you to be confident in your skin, the way that you look, the way that you talk, and who you are, and the color of your skin, that you would just realize that the colorism issue is their problem and
Right.
not yours. So that's
Right.
what I think about that.
Right. Right. I love it. It's a healthy way for parents to teach their children to have esteem about themselves. And the psychological impact of colorism on darker skinned people. Sometimes I remember, I have a lot of memories, but I remember people referring to you black this and you black that, as if black was a bad thing and it was an insult for them to say. And this was in school. So just imagine when you're having your formative years, let's say middle school, when you're going through puberty and all the changes, and your head is too big and your body's too small and you're all out of proportion. And then on top of it, someone is taunting you about your complexion. So
Yes.
how do you overcome that? Let's say if no one at home is reinforcing that you're beautiful, and it's not in spite of your color, but you're beautiful because you're beautiful,
Right.
And so if no one's reinforcing that and you hear the things that come from school and your peers, you may tend to buy into that and believe that more.
Yep. And we'll get more into this when we come right back. And we are back. Thank you for returning to see what we're talking about. Mickey, as you have something else you would like to say?
Yes, yes. Some people bleach their skin or wear light makeup. The desire to fit in and be acceptable in their minds is tied to their color. And if you can't come here like that, sometimes you go to drastic measures to change your skin to fit in. And I think that's a psychologically you don't believe that you're good enough when because you were born makes you good enough, you know? And so I think people buy into that whole thing and they do drastic things to change themselves so they can fit into society and not be oppressed by people who will see them as different.
Right. Yeah, that is so true. Well, in media and entertainment, it was said that lighter skinned actors or models may be more prominently featured or cast as desirable characters, while darker skinned individuals are often stereotyped. And I kind of think that is true.
Yeah.
It certainly is in the workplace. Research shows that individuals with lighter skin may experience advantages in hiring or even getting promotions. And in some cultures, there's a strong market for skin lightening products, as you just mentioned, which reflect preference for a more fairer skin. And so we know of entertainers, Michael Jackson. There's been others. I think Janet probably did a little bit of that from looking at past pictures of her. I think they said Michael Jackson did some, but he said he had vitiligo, but only he knows. And I mean, we don't, the general population, and his doctors know whether it was vitiligo or skin lightening products. But I do think some of them might do that. Sometimes there's medical reasons that people use skin lightening products, like Malaysia is called, or melanin darkening,
Yeah.
hyperpigmentation from being in the sun too often or too long. It's melasma is what it's called. I'm
Mm.
sorry. And other dermatological skin problems that people use skin lightening creams to even out the
Right.
skin tone, not necessarily to make them lighter, but to even out the skin tone.
Right.
But there is stated that people use skin lightening creams for the reasons that we're mentioning. So absolutely.
Mhm. Right. And sometimes they use something like Dermablend to it's a makeup to kind of even out the skin tone, which is a little bit easier than lightening the skin. But yes, I do agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Um, do you remember? Now this is dating us, but that's okay. I don't mind. Do you remember the movie Imitation of Life?
Yes.
Okay, and in this movie was an African American woman who was a housekeeper, and her daughter was biracial. She was part white, European, and the daughter was ashamed of her mother, and she didn't claim her mother, but the mother loves her daughter. And at every turn, when she would come to see about her daughter would say, you can't come here, get away from here, and she would shun her mother because she was black. And at
Yes.
the end of the movie, and if you haven't seen it by now, you can see it.
I
Uh,
think everybody has seen that movie
right,
20
right.
times over. Yeah.
And I don't know if my children have seen it or not, but I've seen it. It came out. I
Yeah.
saw it when I was a little girl, but at the end of the movie, the mother was sick, and she
Mhm.
tried to see her daughter one more time. She said, "Baby, I just want to see you." And she said, "Mama, can you just go home?" And then the woman died. And
Yeah.
so at her funeral, near the end, the daughter was crying over the casket, "Mama, Mama, I'm
Following
sorry."
the casket down the
Right,
street. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and it was too late, but the daughter was trying to pass for white, and she
Yes.
was ashamed of her mother. So that was a stark representation of the colorism in our society, and it was played out surprisingly in Hollywood that they would put a movie out like that. And in addition, there was an actress who was passing for white for years, and she told before she passed away that she was a quarter white, and that was Carol Channing. Do you remember hearing that story?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that she couldn't get the roles if she admitted that she was part black, because I guess the one drop rule that we so often have heard about.
That
So
seemed to have disappeared.
yes, yes. So
That's a
yeah,
whole different story. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. If you look at her features, some of her features kind of look, African American.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, I like the fact that she gave that revelation within her life, and it wasn't an expose that was told
Mhm.
about her. She explained why that was, and it's that passing,
Yeah.
passing for something that you're not.
And I
Mhm.
mentioned you mentioned the one drop rule, and I elaborated that seemed to have gone away. Let me say, since we're talking about colorism, let me just mention it. At first, I said it was a different story, but we have uh, Barack Obama, whose mother was white and father was Kenyan, and the world accepted him as the first black president. Now we have Kamala Harris, whose mother is Indonesian, India, and her father was Jamaican, who was black, and there she's not really black. So I'm confused. Both of them had mothers of a different ethnicity and fathers who were of the African descent,
Percent.
not African American, but Jamaicans are from African descent. Kenyans are, and the makeup is pretty close, except for the ethnicity of both mothers. They both had fathers of the African descent. Yet they're saying now she's trying to be black. She ain't really black. I'm confused. Can you help me understand that? And when I grew up, if that's the case, you and I are not black, okay? Because we
Yeah,
have Cherokee Indian. I'm telling
right.
you for real, we're not 100% black, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what makes you black? That's colorism in a
Yeah.
different form, is why I brought that up. Because I sit all the time and try to figure out, why isn't she? If she says she is, I mean, most people, if they didn't have to be, probably wouldn't, because it's a hard road to toe
Right.
sometimes,
Right.
if you had a choice. So
Yeah.
when did that one drop rule change? I didn't get the memo. That's all I'm trying to say. Now that I'm off of my soapbox, well, stop it.
Well,
She says she's black. She's black.
yeah. If you
Okay.
look at
Who
her,
are you to say she's not?
yeah, yeah. If you look at her, you would know her mother was Indian, which is a brown skinned person anyway.
Anyway,
So,
and they are of African descent.
so,
Okay.
go
Africans
figure.
stopped over there too
Go
on the
figure.
slave ship. Okay.
Yeah, I have something to tell you about former President Obama about that too, probably when we come back.
All right. One moment. So I just want to get off my soapbox and just say, people, what happened to the one drop rule? All right. It doesn't matter if one of your parents is black. Didn't the United States of America say that you're black too? All right. So that's all I have to say about that. It's part of color. It's colorism at its best. And I started to slide on it. And I thought, no, that is another form of colorism.
Yeah. Steeped in racism and otherism. You're
Yes.
not like us, you're like them. You're, dividing people into categories. I think is counterproductive.
Right.
Counterproductive is not helpful. And with former President Barack Obama, there was a movement called the birther movement that was suggesting that he wasn't even American, that he wasn't born here, and he was born in Hawaii, which is a state in the United States. Surprise. And his mother was Caucasian from Kansas,
Yes.
and she had a child with a Kenyan man. So he's half Caucasian, half Kenyan, and he was born in Hawaii. So people were questioning his ethnicity, his religion, and everything else. But I think that was steeped in racism and otherism. just the way they're trying to do Vice President Harris.
Which is a form of colorism,
Right.
another whole
Yeah.
another form.
What happened to the one drop rule? I'm
Yeah.
just saying. Just
So
saying.
colorism is a form of prejudice or discrimination based on skin tone, usually within the same racial or ethnic groups, unfortunately, and it favors individuals with lighter skin over those with darker complexions. This bias can manifest in various areas of life, including, as we mentioned previously, employment, education, relationships, and the media representation. While colorism is often discussed in the context of communities of color, as we also mentioned, like, other ethnicities, i.e., communities, especially in African American, Latino, excuse me, and South Asian groups, it's a global phenomenon. And unlike racism, which is based on race or ethnicity, colorism is rooted in skin tone hierarchies within racial groups, often a legacy of colonialism and the privileging of European beauty standards. Sometimes we think we're not beautiful if our skin isn't the lightest. For example, during slavery, light skinned individuals were sometimes given preferential treatment over darker skinned individuals. And those effects of colorism can include disparities in our social economical opportunities today, in our social statuses today, and even perceptions of beauty and intelligence, which is reinforcing harmful stereotypes for our younger people. It's an ongoing issue that intersects with broader discussions on race, identity, and social justice, and preference for fairer skin.
Well, I was listening to what you're saying and I was thinking about how we've evolved and the fact that darker skin is more acceptable and not just acceptable, but celebrated. You see in the fashion industry, the the very dark Sudanese, almost the actual color black skin, are walking the runways and in ads as far as fashion is concerned. And there
Mm-hmm.
was a time where darker skinned women were told not to wear vibrant colors because they were too dark to wear them. Now I see it as a beautiful contrast to myself, but now it's more acceptable because you're seeing it in fashion and magazines, etc. And we have a place at the table, no matter what the skin tone is. And it shouldn't be no matter what the skin tone is. Everyone should be included at the table. We all have skin,
That's right.
and there's a rainbow of skin tones in this country. Even Caucasians are different skin complexions. Some are probably more olive, some are more, they're all different. So why do we alienate people based on that? As far as opportunities and things. It's becoming more inclusive though, and I'm grateful for that.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree.
Yes. Well, let's see. Colorism perpetuates inequality within racial groups, which um, which causes a lot of harm based on the acceptance of skin complexion. And so, gender, class, and power. And it's a shame that people who are lighter skinned seem to have the power in certain instances. They give the
Mm-hmm.
power. Just like you were saying, the woman who was at the anchor desk is fairer skinned, but the woman behind the camera is not. Or the
Right.
person in the sound room is probably not. But the person on the screen is, even even in acting roles, but I see it evolving in that area too, that the darker skinned women are getting are getting great roles. Look at Viola Davis,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, chocolatey black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Bassett, just different powerhouses of entertainment that are getting their due, and they're very talented, gifted actresses. You
And I
know,
think Cicely Tyson, she was very beautiful when, in her own way, and she was around as a child, for me, as a child coming up. And she's very pretty when she was younger. I don't know if you've ever seen some of her pictures. She was model type pretty when
Yeah.
she was a younger person.
Yes.
So yeah,
Even
there's a
even in
lot
the
of other ones too nowadays that are brown skinned that are our top actresses, in the Hollywood scene. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned Cicely Tyson. She was lovely until she left here. And her, I
Yes.
think she was probably 91.
Hmm.
And remember Madge Sinclair, who was in Coming to America, and also she was the voice. She was one of the voices in The Lion King.
Yes.
Very regal looking woman,
Hmm.
and was very well spoken. And of course, that should be anyone should be well spoken. It shouldn't matter whether you're black or white. Oh, I'm surprised you're so articulate.
I went to school, thank you. Oh, Loretta Devine. I think that she's beautiful
Yeah,
and talented. And I'm
yeah,
just sitting here thinking of brown skinned, beautiful black actresses
yeah,
that it didn't seem the colorism didn't, maybe as far as we can tell, hold
yeah.
them back too much. And then again, it might have, we just didn't know it,
Right, right.
So,
But I'm grateful that they paved the way for the ones coming up behind them for sure.
yeah. Alrighty. They're telling me in my ear it's time to pay the bills again. So we'll be right back. All right, all right. We are back. Okay, so
Yeah. So
as you were saying,
I was saying addressing colorism involves challenging these long held biases and promoting the acceptance of all skin tones. And I feel that we're moving in that direction. It's an exciting time that includes everyone. Now there are still biases,
right.
for sure. There's still racism, but colorism within your own community, I think that we're moving away from that. And even not only our skin tone, but our hairstyles, that we're embracing our ethnicity, where we came from, how we were born. And I love that. I
And
love
I
that.
think more of us that are in positions to be able to accentuate that are doing so by being diverse, like you said, in the types of people that we put in movies or offer contracts to be spokespersons on platforms like this, or all around. We're becoming more inclusive of all types of people
Yeah.
uh, out in the world. So you're absolutely right about that. Very, very much so. Well, as we know, colorism should be something that we simply don't practice at all because it reinforces harmful social hierarchies, perpetuates discrimination within our own communities, and has damaging effects on individuals and communities. Like people can develop low self esteem just because they're darker than someone else. And sometimes, even in families, I'll elaborate. If you're the only brown one and everybody else is fair, you
Yeah.
may feel unequal to your own brother, sister, or mother, or father. And that's so unfair for you, the person or the child, to have some sort of esteem issue just because of colorism,
Right.
and the family having some impact on that being a thing. you
Right.
know it there are several reasons why it's important to reject the colorism altogether. It perpetuates in society inequality and injustice. It affects the mental health and self-esteem, as we just mentioned, with the person who is being discriminated against by their own people or community because they're of a different skin tone. And it harms collective unity, because maybe other people might buy into the colorism and start treating someone unjustly because they're buying into it, or accepting the fact that it's a thing. Uh, it reinforces Eurocentric beauty standards. Like when I was younger, we used to think tall, skinny, light, blonde hair, blue eyes, thin features. And let me just say, we have some people in entertainment right now changing their whole faces, looking like somebody different. There's a
Yeah.
couple of housewives that don't look like they did season one. Nothing at all. They now look like Barbie dolls, like Barbie looked in the movie 2023.
Yeah.
Blonde hair now down to their butts. And when they first came on the scene, it was natural and short. And they had broad noses, and now they have the European nose
Yeah.
and lighter skin. So I don't know what they did to do that. Maybe they used the creams or whatever you mentioned that lightens the skin. But they bought into the Eurocentric beauty standard instead of the beautiful black woman standard, right? And to each his own. I'm just saying it is a thing where it's something within that person that thinks that they have to look like a European to
Right.
be accepted, to get movie roles, or to be loved.
Right.
And that's sad. It
Right.
limits personal and professional opportunities, reinforces historical and colonial legacies, as we talked about all through this broadcast. How back in the slave days, the masters made the house people feel they were more important and had more value than their brother or sister working in the field doing the hard labor. That is the colonial legacy that has somehow, unfortunately, carried over into 2024. So rejecting colorism allows for healing, and it allows for growth as a human being, as far as accepting oneself as the way God made you and not making yourself into something that you think society would want you to look like and be like, and what society, how you think society will accept you. Uh, rejecting rejecting colorism allows for dismantling of outdated mindsets. It's harmful ideologies that still linger in modern society. And when we look at, as you and I talked the other day about social influencers or celebrities or people that younger people look up to,
Right.
it could affect that younger person thinking that they must look European to be accepted. Have
Yeah.
that they must think, they might feel like, well, this person's doing it and look at her, she's viral on social media.
Right.
Or this person's doing it and look at him, he's getting all the movie roles. They're changing who they are because deep inside of them there is something missing. They didn't get that you're beautiful as you are talk from
Right.
from the people that love them, you know. So although they look beautiful, they're changing who they are on the outside. They're still who they are on the inside. And if you love the person that they are on the inside, you should love how they are on the outside without having to change that person.
Right. Right. I was thinking about all that you said, and when you were talking about most of the children are dark in a family and one comes out light, sometimes they would even question their paternity. Well, you couldn't be their child because you're different from the
That's
rest of the
sad.
children, which is sad.
Yes,
So that messes with self-esteem. Like, am I adopted? Am I, why am I different? Am I your child, dad, or whatever? And then no one controls who their parents are. We just emerge from the womb the way God made us. And it's unfortunate that we persecute each other based on things that we cannot control. And
right.
I would hope that our world would change to the place where we're not judging people by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, said by a very wise man, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's right. That's right. And I think you mentioned in most minority ethnicities, you can range down the spectrum of
Yeah.
shades. And it
Right.
goes back to your genes.
Right.
Uh, it could go back decades,
Yeah.
century even,
Yeah.
to somebody you don't even know. that you now look like, because you share the same genetic pool. So, yeah, we thought this topic would be interesting because we see it every day. We live it every day. We see social influencers changing the color of their skin, and our children and grandchildren are watching. So, hopefully, some of them will see this TV show and realize that it is not the color of your skin, but the content of your character. Said by MLK, and we just repeated that. That matters.
Yeah.
Teach that to your children and your grandchildren if you haven't already, what Martin Luther King said, because that's the grit of it all right there. And I am going to say that, Mickey G, I appreciate you very much. And I appreciate the TV audience for stopping in every day to see what we're gabbing about on Gab with Golden Bronze. And I hope that you come back again tomorrow, because we will also have a very informative, maybe funny, lighthearted. You never know. We do random topics and we just roll with the flow. So come back and check us out tomorrow. I am going to ask my co-host to take us on out.
All right. Thank you. And it is a privilege to be here with you, Golden Bronze.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you may now see Gab with Golden Bronze talk show on the DuPont TV network, brought to you by Village Global Network TV, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm so excited about that. 12 noon Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Be sure to tune in, and we will see you there. So, at the beginning of the show, Golden Bronze indicated that this show sponsors Golden Swan Cadre, and I'm going to tell you ways that you can donate to this cause. If you have the Chime app, you enter $ Golden Swan Cadre. The G, S, and C are uppercase or capitalized. If you have PayPal, enter the Golden Swan Cadre at gmail.com. You may go to our website, and we hope that you do. It's www.goldenswancadre.com. Look around in there and see what kind of things we're doing and what kind of things we need. On social media, go to Instagram and visit charities and find the official _ Golden Swan Cadre. On Facebook, you also visit the charity section and find Golden Swan Cadre. Join us in making a positive impact today for this worthy cause and these deserving women, and we thank you in advance.
Yes, we do. And please come back and see what we're talking about tomorrow. Thank you.